All right, welcome back, mythology students. And today we continue our discussion of creation myths and different archetypes, how they're the same, how they're different, what they all have in common throughout the world. That's your learning target, comparing common themes and elements between the creation myths. Okay, and today we are specifically looking at the Greek creation myth known as theogony. You will find that on Schoology. You can get the text of it here. And you also have on Schoology the Moana opening, which is a good example of an earth diver myth. I'm going to let you view that for yourselves. Okay, so here is a little bit of theogony. I gave you an excerpt. The actual text is, of course, much longer. Written by an ancient Greek called Hesiod. It's pronounced theogony, which comes from the Greek words theos, meaning gods, and ginomai, come into being. Think of it as the birth of the gods. The poem starts with the hymn to the Muses. These are those singing ladies at the beginning of the Disney Hercules movie, the animated one. The Greeks believed there were 9 muses who inspired all sorts of creative art, whether it was music, singing, dancing, writing, poetry, you name it. One of the muses had to inspire you or you would not be able to do it. And they find this fellow named Hesiod at the base of this mountain called Helicon, and he's taking care of his sheep. And they say, hey, listen up. Rustic shepherds, worthless reproaches, mere stomachs. We know how to say many lies like the truth, and whenever we wish, we can tell the truth too, if we feel like it. Pay attention. We're gods. You're not. You're just a stomach. You just eat. That's all you're good for. Man, not nice people. But anyway, Hesiod decides he's going to listen to what they have to say, and I'm going to pick up with the Greek creation myth and what he wrote down, supposedly, that the muses told him. So here we go. In the beginning, the Greeks believed there was this empty, disorganized void they called chaos, or chaos as we would say it. And out of the chaos, ex nihilo, if you will, if you remember from last time, out of nothing, comes the earth and the sky and some other primordial gods. Primordial means nobody created them. They just kind of show up because they want to. They feel like it. Poof, there they be. All right, and we saw that with the Egyptian creation myth as well, the god who thinks himself into existence. Hey, there's a familiar word for some of you, Erebus. Ever been to the haunted house? It means darkness. Nice, huh? Okay, well, Gaia, Mother Earth, she gets the idea that she's lonely, and she's going to create a counterpart for herself. She creates Uranos, the sky god. And so the earth creates the sky, the earth marries the sky, and then has children with the sky. Kind of an interesting concept, but ancient people around the world often believed the earth was a goddess. They thought the earth was female. It had the ability to give birth. They looked at plants coming up, and they said, well, they came out of the earth. How'd that happen? And, well, they looked up at the sky. Rain comes down from the sky. It hits the earth. Plants come up from the earth, and they figure, well, that's the earth and the sky having children. Sure, why not? We'll go with that. And so they believed the earth and the sky were alive, and there were gods because they weren't human. They were deities above and beyond what humans could understand. Well, the Greek myth is interesting because the earth doesn't just have plant children. The earth and the sky also have giant children. Okay, and their first generation, they have a set of triplets, and they had 100 hands and 50 heads each. 100-handed giants, if you want the fancy snazzy Greek word for it. We call them the hecatoncheires. Whew, that's a mouthful. But the hecatoncheires, we'll just call them the 100-handed ones and leave it at that. Imagine 50 headaches at one time. That's a lot of Advil. Okay, moving on. They have another generation, or another set of children, rather, and these are called the Cyclopes. The Cyclops is one, Cyclopes or Cyclopes is more than one. Giants with a ginormous eye right in the smack middle of their forehead. Okay? And as these monster children are born, Uranos doesn't like it. The sky god says these kids are kind of scary, and they might try to overthrow me. All right, talking about archetypes. The Greek myths in particular, you see this idea of the younger generation overthrowing the older generation. The older ones are always threatened by the children and always trying to do something about it. And a lot of the time they had good reason. In the ancient world, if you had something worth having and your children wanted it, you had reason to be afraid, especially if you were a Roman emperor. And so this concept of generational strife and jealousy carries over into the myths. So Uranos figures he's got to do something about his children. So he puts them in the underworld, known as Tartarus, which is inside the earth. They're immortal. The earth is a god. The sky is a god. Therefore, the giant children are gods. They can't be killed. They're alive forever, no matter what. But they can be trapped. And so he takes these giant children, shoves them back inside their mother. If you think about it, the underworld is inside the earth. Ooh, yuck. And he traps them there. Well, meanwhile, they have another generation of kids, and our school nickname is the Titans, so I know you will remember the Titans. Catch the movie reference there? We call that an allusion. Don't worry about the names. There's lots of them. I'm going to show you a couple of them just because I happen to like them. Okeanos, we get our word ocean. He was the one ocean that surrounded the world. Yep, we're going back to when the earth was flat, folks. Flat earth. Okay, they had 3,000 daughters known as nymphs. Talk about a lot of birthdays. Then we get Hyperion. He's the god of light. And if you've read Percy Jackson, you might have noticed on the book cover, Hyperion Publishing prints those books, named after the Titan. I always felt bad for Thea. Her name literally just means goddess. Imagine if your parents just named you girl, or boy, or person. Maybe you wouldn't feel so bad if all parents did that, but I mean, all 11 of the other Titans get actual names, except for her. That stinks. Anyway, you don't need to know their names for now. We'll come back to the Titans when we talk about pantheons next week. But the one you should really pay attention to is the little one. His name is Kronos. He marries his twin sister, Rhea. Yep, the wife sister. Here we go again. Follow the House of Usher. It's Edgar Allan Poe all over again. But there's really nobody else to get married to, so I guess they didn't have a choice, right? Moving on. Anyway, they get this idea about overthrowing the king. Gaia is tired of having babies, and so she tells Kronos, here's the plan. We're going to get rid of your dad. We can't kill him, but if we hurt him bad enough, he might just go away forever, and that's what happens. So Kronos hides in a cave with this curvy sword known as a sickle and waits till his dad shows up that night to get together with mom. Jumps out of the cave, attacks his father with the sickle, injures him very badly in a very sensitive place for men. I'll leave it at that. And Uranos is in such pain, he goes back up to the sky, and this is the last story we have about him in mythology. He just kind of stays there and lets Kronos be in charge. Likewise, Gaia, she continues to be the earth, but she's a less important character from there on out. Rhea, the wife of Kronos, she's the fertility goddess and motherhood and marriage, and takes the role as queen of the gods at that point. So that is the Greek creation myth in a nutshell. We'll get to Zeus next week with pantheons. But what similarities did you notice? What archetypes do we have? We have strife between the generations. We have pairs, opposite pairs like earth and sky. Okay, there's a bunch of them. See what else you notice, and we'll talk about that next time. Have a great day.